Welcome everyone to the Electric Coaches channel. And in this particular video, we're going to talk about tweaking an ITZ base. And in front of you is how the ITZ base looks when it's been disassembled. On the left, this is the frame of the base, and it has 4 prongs, 2 on each side. Here in the middle you have the dial of the base, and it too has 4 prongs, 2 for each side of its part. And you have the pin that holds the dial inside the frame. This particular base, I want to see what it gives me. Currently I'm using it as a quarterback on my electric football Seattle Seahawks. I want to see if I can perhaps maybe get this base to play lineman, be it defensive or offensive, or maybe tight end or fullback or possibly linebacker. This is the underside of the ITZ dial base when it's assembled. And here I have it on my Russell Wilson quarterback figure. This particular base worked out well on it. And notice where the pin is. It's right there in the middle where the dial is as I rotate it. If you look at the underside of a total team control base, you can see the similarities. There you have a dial, but you don't have as many prongs on this total team control base as you do the ITZ base. So let's get started with the assembly of the ITZ base. Okay, first thing I want to do when I assemble this base, I want to grab the dial and the frame. I simply want to just set the dial inside the frame and gently snap it in. Then I want to get the pin right here, and I want to lay it inside the dial like so, and simply push it in, snap it in. So there it is. The ITZ dial is put together. So we're going to see if we can get this base to perform along with this Russell Wilson quarterback figure base. I mounted the Brandon McBain defensive tackle figure on this ITZ base to test it out for me. And right off the break, when I look at the prongs on this base, the prongs are sticking straight out. So that tells me right there that 1, the base is new, and 2, the base is not going to move very well because the prongs should be slightly swept to the rear of the base, which is down here. So I'm going to first do a run test to confirm my idea about this base off the break, and then I'm going to start to tweak it. We're now ready to run test this base. Let's see what happens. The base moved backwards. If you notice, the front of the base is here. And when we set the figure down the board, the front of the base is supposed to go this way. Base moved backwards. Observe. And that's because the prongs on this base, as we showed you earlier in the previous frame, the prongs are sticking straight up. Well, in this case, straight up and down because the figure is on the table now. So what we have to do, we're going to take our pliers and we're going to start to manipulate these prongs so we can get some type of movement out of this base. Since the front prongs of this base seem to be misaligned worse than the rear prongs, I'm going to start with these front ones. So I'm going to simply take my pliers, and I'm not going to squeeze them. I'm going to grab both of these prongs. And by the way, you want to make sure the thickness of your pliers is enough to accommodate the size of the prong. So these particular pliers, I can grab both prongs at the same time. So without putting any pressure on these prongs, I'm just going to curl them a little bit. I'm going to slightly drag them like so to get that curl, a slight curl in these prongs. And I'm going to move to the other side on the front of the base, and I'm going to do the same thing. Take my pliers and gently drag and curl the prongs. I haven't applied any pressure yet, because the objective is to just get the base moving right now. Now, if you look at the prongs here, right at the front, you might be able to see that they're slightly now going back this way. So since we're here on the bottom side of the base, the business side, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing to these bottom prongs. We're going to grab them. We're not going to squeeze them yet, and we're going to just simply curl. You don't want to bend the prong. You want to slide the prong like so. Slide the pliers across the prong like so. And then we have a slightly swept back position on these prongs. So let's do a quick run test. We're going to set the board down, set the player down right here. Move them back a little bit. Let's see what happens. There it is. We got forward movement. I'm happy. We're now on our way to perhaps making a player out of this base. Okay, we've seen our run test of the Brandon McBain figure on the ITZ base. We got some movement out of it. Now we're going to test for resistance. And I brought out my center figure, Max Unger, to help us in that test. So we're going to line up, head up, man to man, and let's see what happens. Okay, the ITZ base gets taken out completely by this tweaked total team control base. So we're going to see if we can not only get this base to move better, we're also going to see if we can get this base to resist better as well. Now, normally when I start tweaking a base, I start with my pliers. But this time, I'm going to flash this base. And then I'm going to use my pliers after applying the heat. So, I'm going to start with the back prongs. Get our flame going and do like that. Flame going, wave over like that. I'll turn it over, get our flame going, hit the front like one more time, do that. Now that I've applied some heat, gonna get my pliers and we're gonna start squeezing on our prongs, flattening those prongs. Now I'm applying pressure. And I'm also taking care to keep the prongs swept back. So I'm grabbing both prongs and I'm flattening them. Okay? Now I'm going to go to the front prongs. Do the same thing. Flatten them. I want to watch these two prongs right here on this side. They're kind of separating a little bit. I'm going to go to the other side. Do the same thing. Okay. Okay, now we have flashed prongs as well as flattened prongs. Let's make sure these prongs are swept to the rear. Now we're going to do a run test real quick to see what we have. Now that we've flashed the prongs and we've flattened the prongs, let's run this base again to see what kind of results we got. It moves a lot smoother. That's a good sign. It's a good sign. So now let's now match it up against a proven lineman, our center Max Unger, and let's see what kind of resistance we get. Although the base lost the battle for the line of scrimmage, it resisted a lot better than before. So this base is now showing us some promise. So let's let's do some more tweaking here. I have in my hand a smaller set of pliers. The nose on these pliers, as you can see, are a little more narrow. See, these were the pliers I used initially. So with these smaller set of pliers, I can now go to each prong and flatten those some more, giving each one of those prongs its own attention. So I'm going to grab this outside prong here. I'm going to flatten it. Then I'm going to grab this inside prong, which happens to be easier to get at, and I want to flatten that one. So I'm going to go around to each prong with these smaller pliers, doing the same thing. See, these prongs on this ITZ base, they're thicker than prongs that you would see on your more traditional bases, like your Total Team Control base or the Buzzball RL base. Okay, got those back prongs done. So now we're going to move up here to the front prongs, do the same thing. Hit those again, one at a time. And again, we want to pay extra attention to these two particular prongs here, because they were separating a bit. So I took my fingers and I, pushed them over a little bit, bringing them closer together. And we want to grab this prong, flatten it some more, and then we're going to grab the other one. And take our fingers here, and we're going to check our work. Because when you use your pliers on these prongs, sometimes the prongs will bend on their own as you flatten them, as you squeeze the plastic. The plastic has a tendency to curl on its own, although remember earlier we took our pliers and we started curling the prongs. So we're going to test this base out and see what we have. So let's set it down on the table there. And let's run them. Good forward movement. Let's bring them back up. Let's match them up. Let's see what we get. Nice, nice. This base is coming along nicely. So even if this base didn't work out as a lineman, there's a possibility this bass could be used at a different position. Tight end maybe. Perhaps safety. Don't know yet. So far, the bass is showing us some promise. Let's run them again. It's good. It's good. I took the bass off of our defensive tackle, Mebane, and I moved it over to a safety figure, Cam Chancellor. And I want to match him up against our fullback, Derek Coleman. I just want to see what the bass does at the point of attack. Let's see what happens. Well, it lost the battle to the fullback, which, by the way, is mounted on a buzzball directional bass. I tweaked this bass earlier, getting it ready for this video. So this safety bass, well, this ITZ bass, that is, I don't know where I want to put it at yet. I'm going to continue to work with it as I am doing with a lot of other basses. I'm Mo. Thanks for watching.